Howdy, everybody, and welcome to the TexAgs High School Football Show, presented by Academy Sports and Outdoors. Academy has all your high school football road trip needs this season. Get the right gear for the long season with free curbside pickup today at Academy Sports and Outdoors. What's up, everybody? Welcome along to the TexAgs High School Football Show, the state semifinal version. Just a couple more weeks of this show left. Jason Howell and Ryan Brauninger, the TexAgs recruiting team. And Jason, it's kind of surreal that we're getting down to the end of this thing, but I was going back and looking at our pre-playoff predictions.
Yeah.
You're doing pretty well. I'm doing okay. Our assistant Cade, he's taking a couple on the chin early in the playoffs, but there were some results. There were some results this weekend that certainly caught our eye and made our predictions wrong in some classifications across the state of Texas. So I guess we'll start with you. I know you had a pretty busy day on Saturday, and there was 3 games on the weekend.
Yeah, and I'll get through these pretty quick. They were all blowouts.
I did notice that you saw a bunch of just one-sided affairs there.
And I'll be honest, I didn't expect 2 of them to be blowouts. It was a one-sided weekend. Friday night, got to get out to see DeSoto Cedar Hill, the Battle of the Beltline. This is always a game that has a lot of energy behind it. Both fan bases, there's a real healthy rivalry, even when one side isn't great. And to see Cedar Hill make this run under new head coach Nick Ward, it's been awesome to see him make this run. So there was a lot of energy going into this game, and I think those Longhorns were wanting some of those Eagles, and they got all they could handle and more. And it was pretty clear right off the bat. DeSoto just was going to be too much. DJ Bailey hits Antonio Pride on a beautiful 37-yard touchdown pass to open things up. Now Cedar Hill did punch back, blocked the PAT, and took it down for a 2-point conversion. And it was pretty loud and rowdy. Like I said, DeSoto just answered quickly and strongly. Tiger Ryden with a 1-yard touchdown. The defense gets a stop. Punch. They get a field goal. They pin Cedar Hill deep and get a interception. Tip pass. Defensive lineman comes up with it, returns it for a touchdown, and it was the route was on. It was a 38-10 halftime lead. They picked up another defensive score. Brandon Booker doing the honors there right before half, and really Tiger Ryden doing a great work. 10 carries, 105 yards, a score, and 5 receptions for 43. The story of the night, I thought, Antonio Pride with 4 receptions for 114 yards and a score. He seemed to be making a big play every time he turned around. Sal Reyes had an interception. He was in on quite a few plays on defense. It's a good overall night for DeSoto, and I've said it. We've said it just about every week since I saw him against Allen. That is a team that looks prime for another state championship. They just have things rolling at a very strong pace, they'll meet up with Southlake and Allen on Saturday. So, and touching on Allen, or Southlake, I got to see them in the nightcap on Saturday, and it was a rematch of a game they, with Byron Nelson, a team they lost to in the regular season, lost the district championship to Byron Nelson. So this time around, not so much. They came out and they had an agenda. Byron Nelson, took the opening kickoff. Jonathan Cabaya, BYU commit, took it down, put Byron Nelson in prime field position, but the Carroll defense stood up and forced a turnover on downs. And Riley Wormley had a 42-yard run that, 2 plays later, he punches it in for a touchdown. And it was just all Southlake. The defense forced three interceptions in the first half, and went to the half up. I want to say what 42-0, and I decided it was dinner time at that point, and just it was a route all the way through. They pull out the 50, I want to
56 to
56
7.
7, yeah. And yeah, but I thought Byron Nelson would give them more of a ball game, and that wasn't to be the case. And then before that, I got to see South Oak Cliff and Lovejoy, and I think I said it last week. We've seen this story before, and Lovejoy has not handled it well, and they did not handle it well on Saturday. The defenses did get up; both defenses got off to a pretty strong start, but Sock just plays with such an edge, and their ground game was so much more efficient. And Danny Green had I want to say is a 60-yard touchdown, 69-yard touchdown run to open the scoring, and he added another one.
He's a
And
solid back, man.
he
He's
is.
on a good run in the playoffs
Let
too.
me tell you, him and Khalil Ewell, they don't have offers, man. Those are two really good high school running backs that somebody, whether it's JC or FCS, somebody's going to jump in there and get themselves a really good running back. Um, somebody compared Danny Green to Curtis Martin, and I think that's really, really apt. I mean, he's a guy that just sees where he needs to go. He's not the shiftiest, he's not the biggest, but let me tell you, that guy's always going forward, and he sees where he needs to go, and he gets there in a hurry. So he's fun to watch. But yeah, they went in the half up 21-0, and Lovejoy had the backbreaker right before halftime. It looked like they were going to go for it on fourth down, decided to kick the field goal, and then they missed it. And that just seemed like it took all the life out of them heading into the half, and that soft defense was, ooh, it was tough, and led by a sophomore, Jamarian Phillips, big kid to watch, man, and he was all over the backfield, especially in the second half. 3 sacks, 5 tackles for loss, and 13 tackles on the day. And he's got them buzzing, man. They got Jaden Shelton out there in the 25 class, but Jamarian Phillips, he is a dude. So
Yeah, South Oak Cliff never short on talent, especially under this in
yeah.
this recent run to those back-to-back
Mhm.
state titles, and really looking like the surefire favorite now to make it a third. On Thursday night, I was in Houston to see a team that perhaps may challenge South Oak Cliff again to that
Mm.
back-to-back state championship, or at least try to prevent them from winning a third. I saw
Mhm.
PNG take on Huntsville, and you mentioned teams going on runs in the playoffs. The
Mhm.
one that I think Huntsville finished 5-5 in the regular season,
Yeah.
third in their district, and they just, I guess, it all came together there for Coach Southern's bunch. They bit really big up front on both lines of
Mhm.
scrimmage, play outstanding defense, but just wasn't enough for the PNG kind of ground and pound. And PNG just, they're so well coached. They just do stuff that a
Yeah.
lot of other high school teams can't do. It's a credit to Jeff Joseph and his kids, but they're just so well versed in every aspect. They're good on special teams.
Mhm.
They don't really try to trick you much on offense. They're big up front. I really like what I see out of 25 O lineman Jackson Christian. That would be a kid that I would put on offer watch for A&M, having a great end of the year and into the
Mhm.
playoffs there for the Indians. But they win 24-14. Shea Adams is a kid that's got a bunch of he's got all the service academies. He's got some Ivy
Mhm.
League offers. 6'4", 210-pound kid that plays quarterback, receiver, and probably for me projects as like an edge defender at the next level.
Okay.
But they put the ball in his hands in a lot of different ways, and he scored the opening touchdown. Had a huge run in the second half to give PNG some distance. But again, it's like nothing spectacular, but they're just really good, and they just it's kind of like Jeff Joseph, the son of Gary Joseph at Katy.
Yeah.
It's kind of like some of those Katy teams where you're like, okay, like they don't have really any outstanding athletes like over the top
Machine
players.
like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but it's just a machine. It's just
Yeah.
efficient. So PNG moves on. Well, they'll face Liberty Hill for the second year in a row in the 5A Division II state semifinals. Then on Saturday, probably my game of the year in the city of Houston, Summer Creek 35, Fort Bend Hightower
Ooh.
31. Summer Creek scores with 21 seconds remaining. They were down 11 points with less than 7 minutes to
Wow.
play. So when they had to have an offensive drive, they got one. Their quarterback, Blake Thomas, who's more of an athlete kind of kid, playing
Yeah.
quarterback, makes a touchdown throw to Texas Southern commit Cordell Rogers. They get a quick 3-and-out. Uh, Actually, they tried an onside kick. Fort Bend Hightower recovers. Their defense gets a 3-and-out, and instead of punting it, Fort Bend Hightower tried a fake punt. It was incomplete.
No.
So gave Summer Creek the ball around midfield with just over a minute to play. They get down inside the 5-yard line, and they hand it to a kid that's probably been the most productive back in Houston in Lloyd Avant, Tulsa commit. And you talked
Mm.
about Danny Green and just kind of just
Mhm.
knowing where the hole is. And I would describe Lloyd Avant that way. It doesn't, like when you watch him play, it doesn't just pop off the screen. But
Yeah.
what he does a really good job of is like throttling up and throttling down, like kind of
Mhm.
changing his tempo and his pace. And he's really patient.
Mhm.
In back-to-back weeks, I've seen him, and it's like, man, this guy just eats up yards. And it's not, he's not like bursting through the hole. He runs through contact. Like I said, he'll ride his offensive lineman through the hole, and it's just always falling forward. And he turns a 3-yard gain into a 7-yard gain. And those, over the
Mm.
course of the game, those are really
Absolutely.
they're difference makers. But he scores with 21 seconds left, and just an incredible scene. I felt like, it was one of those games when you walk away from it. And I was really privileged to get to
Mm.
watch that, and I was
Yeah.
honored to be there. So it was a really cool spectacle for the city of Houston, and uh, I was pumped to come out of there. Now Summer Creek draws Cibolo Steel in the 6A Division II state semifinals for the
Ooh.
right to probably play DeSoto. I mean, that's what it's looking like. I know
Yeah.
North Crowley might have something to say about that, right? Or is that's
No,
D1?
that's gonna
That's
be South Lake.
South Lake. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was looking
So
at the D1 bracket.
yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, South Lake. They could pull an upset, but right now, like you said, I think DeSoto is the odds-on favorite, and so Summer Creek and Cibolo Steel will be battling out for the honor to play against the reigning state champions there in 6A Division II. Any other scores over the weekend stand out? We got to talk
Well,
about
I
Tyler
mean,
Chapel Hill upset Kilgore. I mean, there was some big
yeah,
time,
Gilmore.
eye-opening scores. Gilmer upsetting Carthage. A lot happened in
Mhm.
East Texas.
Well, I'll say it. Our, Cade, man, he got to see one of the biggest, in my opinion, with
Oh
Refurio.
yeah,
I
Furio. I mean,
mean,
Ganado put it on him.
I did not see that coming, not at all. I mean, but they not only won, they won going away. I mean,
41-12.
that was special. Did not see that coming. But yeah, you talk about those East Texas scores there, man. Gilmer over Carthage, and I think me and 99% of people out there picking state champions entering the playoffs pick Carthage to win because you just don't pick against Carthage. And I mean they're always there. So, but Gilmer is a program that's been there before too, plenty of times,
Yep.
and those two, they're going to gear up for each other. And Carthage is coming off a week. They had Pleasant Grove the week before. That's another. Those are three teams that, yeah, if you'd have told me they went to the state championship game, I wouldn't bat an eye. I mean,
Yeah.
but yeah, and I got to give Lancaster, credit again, man. Put Forney, to the test. Took it to overtime. Pulled. Forney ended up pulling out the 43-41 win. But this is a Lancaster team that went through a whole lot, over the course of the year. They were penalized. They always had, consistency issues throughout the year. But Kwan Lacey, uh, you know, has really stepped up through the playoffs. But they put it together. They always had the talent. And unfortunately for them, they did fall to Forney, which is going to be that's gonna be a fun one to watch against Aledo. But yeah, that one was it, it was a shocker to me that they pushed Forney as strong as they did.
There were a lot of interesting scores on rematches this year. You know,
Hmm.
Lorena had beaten Franklin to stop their 39
Yeah.
game winning streak during the regular season. Franklin comes back and beats Lorena by 22.
Hmm.
You know, again, you talk about a program that none of us picked to win a state championship in our playoff predictions. They're the back-to-back reigning state champions, and nobody picked them, and now they're back into a semifinal where they'll face
I know.
Edna this weekend. And you know, some interesting stuff like, you know, Garrison Timpson was a rematch, and Garrison was, you know, they lost by 12. And the big thing to monitor there with Timpson is the health of JJ Garner.
Yeah.
Went down during the game, and that, I mean, I know that Terry Bussey can probably carry them to AT&T Stadium, but
Yeah.
missing JJ Garner, that's huge for a school like Timpson, where you don't have the numbers or the depth, and he's such a quality player anyway that I'm not saying anybody would, but in terms of number of players on the
Now,
roster, just Timpson's it's tough to replace a guy like that.
well, I will say this, and I agree with you 100%. They're gonna miss JJ Garner. Um, but yeah, I would say they do have experience without a key player. Earlier in the year, they were without Terry Bussey.
Yep.
So, they've played some games. A lot of those guys have a lot of experience, especially in some of these blowouts. So Timpson, yeah, you're gonna miss a guy like JJ, but to their credit, they have been getting guys in and getting a lot of experience, and they've got some playmakers back there. But yeah, that's a big blow. I hate to see that because he was having such a phenomenal season, and seeing him back against, I think he'd missed a few games before Honeygrove, and seeing him back was that was something else. And you hate to see it. You hate to see somebody go down with a significant injury in the playoffs like that.
North Shore hangs on and beats Atascocita in a rematch, 34-28. That was a game there. I think it was 13-0 Atascocita, and then North Shore scored the next 31 in a row.
Man,
But you know what? Like, there's people wondering about North Shore, and I know we say this all the time. As soon as you start wondering about them, they seem to pop up and just blow somebody out. Now it'll be
see,
tough for them to do that against Austin Westlake this week, but I thought it was interesting that Atascocita kept it. They were obviously within a score at the end of the game there.
well, and that's one of those that's kind of like, it's kind of like Sock and Lovejoy. One day, Lovejoy is going to get over that hump, and it's going to, be like, how do we not make this happen? And it's just that mental, that just having that mental aid in there that we can do this, we've done it,
Mhm.
and until they get over that hump, especially in the playoffs, man, it's tough. That's a hurdle that they're just really struggling with, and have for years.
All right, one more score I wanted to talk about before we get to our games this week. Shout
Hmm.
out the Rio Grande Valley. Brownsville Veterans Memorial 35, Corpus Christi Miller 28. The Valley, for the first time, I believe, man, I can't remember, was it 50 something years? It's
Yeah.
been since the Valley has been in a state semifinal game,
Wh-
uh, or maybe
they-
longer than that, maybe 1952. If I got to go look that up, but it's been a long time.
Well, and they knocked out Corpus Christi Miller, who I had winning that game from the very beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Had them making the semi, so knocked out one of my little dark horses. But that Miller team has been lighting teams up, and yeah,
That was
heck of
another
a
big.
performance. Yeah.
I think that was another big comeback by Brownsville Vets, because I
Mm.
want to say I looked at it at halftime or maybe the third quarter, and Corpus Christi Miller was up a couple scores. So
Oh wow. Yeah.
a big comeback, and I'm sure that the Rio Grande Valley will travel well to Corpus this week,
Oh,
5A
no doubt
Division
about
One
that.
semifinal against Smithson Valley, who hangs on or rallies to beat A&M Consolidated there in 5A Division One. All right, Jason, what's your schedule look like for semifinal weekend?
Well, Friday night, I'm gonna kick things off in Denton, Texas. Gonna see Decatur and Anna in 4A Division One, and then
Nate
yeah,
Palmer had an incredible run through the playoffs.
really need to see him. He's one of those guys, like, since he's been up here in this area, and he's been committed to TCU for a while. It's not like that's been a priority for me to get out and check him out, but he's a guy that everybody talks about as one of the top players in the area. I know he's been, highly recruited Yeah, I'm excited to see him in person. Like you said, he's been rolling through the playoffs. Decatur is on a heck of a run. I
That's
picked,
Coach Huff. That's my guy,
yeah,
Coach Huff. Y'all tell him
well,
hello for me.
I will, and I picked Anna before the playoffs even started. I picked
Mhm.
both of these teams to be here, and I've got Anna going on to win the state championship. So uh, I'm sticking with Anna as my prediction, but I think this is going to be a knockdown, drag out, and could go either way. We've seen a lot of overtime, one score, one possession type games, in these playoffs, and I think this is going to be one of those. And then Saturday, I'm going to get out and see Duncanville, North Crowley, and Mesquite out there at Memorial on Saturday afternoon. And I have not seen North Crowley yet in person the last 2 years, so I am really anxious to get my eyes on them. They've got a lot of talent, especially in the underclassmen, and then Duncanville's just Duncanville. So
Yeah.
yeah, gonna see that 6A D1 matchup, and yeah, can't wait.
All right, Thursday, I'm going to Woodforest Bank Stadium in the Woodlands to see Timpson Ganado, a game that we had talked
There you
about.
go.
See A&M commit Terry Bussey. I thought I was going to do a doubleheader in Pflugerville on Friday and Saturday.
Yeah.
Turns out, my fiance is really good about letting me know when I screw up the schedule, and I made a promise for some of her work stuff on
Yeah.
Friday, so I won't be on the road Friday, but Saturday I will be going to Pflugerville to see North Shore and Austin
There you
Westlake
go.
tangle. And I have not seen the Shaps this year.
Yeah.
Coach Salazar has been great with me when I was out there last
Mhm.
year. He's done a fantastic job of taking over Todd Dodge's program and keeping them as probably the premier program in Central Texas. And so this is a matchup that now this will be my third time to see it. The first time I saw it, it happened in Katy after
Mm.
the COVID year, and Cade Klubnik rallied Austin Westlake for a win. The next year, I was at Rice, and I saw uh, David Amador and North Shore pull away from Austin Westlake late. So this is the rubber match, and
There you go.
going to happen more in Austin Westlake's territory this week. But I mean, we could be watching. At least it's setting up for Duncanville North Shore round whatever. I've already forgotten how many they've played, but pretty clear that those are not only the two
Yeah.
premier teams in their respective cities, but also the two premier teams in 6A Division One across maybe even the country.
Well, I think that's what we initially picked, and
Yeah,
I want to say I went with North Shore. Didn't you go? Did you pick North
I
Shore as
picked North
well?
Shore as well.
Yeah. So, yeah,
But the way they're playing right now, it looks. I
yeah.
mean, Duncanville is probably the safer pick, but you never know. I mean,
Yeah.
North Shore. We saw them when they put it all together against Cy Fair 2 weeks ago. That it was an absolute throttling. So we'll see. I mean, that they can turn it on at any moment. They certainly got the athletes and the players to do it. But uh, as storied of a matchup as you can have in a state
Oh,
semifinal,
absolutely.
North Shore against Austin Westlake. All right, Jason. Uh, we'll get back on the phones covering this recruiting stuff with A&M, but looking forward to this weekend on the gridiron at high school football. This is the TexAgs High School Football Show for Jason Howell. I'm Ryan Brauninger. Thanks for tuning in.